All right, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Aaron McIntyre. Make sure you read his stuff at The Blaze and go out and get his book. Guys, I don't know how else to say this. We've seen plenty of headlines this week with Joe Biden out there. Everyone wants you to focus on Trump and the court cases that I believe are just sham trials, to be frank. And I suspect that many of you viewing this network agree with me on that issue. But I want to talk about Biden because I have this belief, and I don't want to be hyperbolic. I don't want to exaggerate. But I don't know how else to put this except to say that I believe that Biden hates the West. I mean, that's what the evidence shows. We're getting ready to play this clip of Biden on CNN with Erin Burnett. And you guys have heard about this. I'm sure many of you have seen this, but I want you to hear it again. And this is a guy that's just totally lying about the economy after he destroyed the economy. And his legislative actions have destroyed the economy, also killing the Keystone XL pipeline, where Russia is able to get, or Russia is selling fuel to China and all this kind of nonsense. This guy has been a total disaster. This guy has been an enemy to capitalism, if you will. Not only that, we learned this week, and he admitted in this interview as well, that he is withholding weaponry from Israel after it's already been appropriated for. I mean, he did this unilaterally. I mean, he didn't speak to Congress about this. He didn't speak to the House Appropriations Committee or the Senate, Senate committee, or any of the committees that he needed to speak to. He just did that unilaterally after money was already appropriated for Ukraine, for Israel, and for Taiwan. How do you do that? Except to say that you hate the left. Not to mention, there's a story that I want to bring you that I'm not sure that you've heard about, but literally there's about 3.5 million illegal aliens that are tied up in our court system. So we're all hoping that there will be mass deportations if President Trump is able to win in November. But I got to tell you, there's at least 3.5 million people that aren't going anywhere. So this is going to be, we're in for a rough haul. But anyway, without any further ado, let me go ahead and roll this video. This is Erin Burnett of CNN confronting Biden on the economy. Your jaw may drop if you haven't already seen this video, but here's what he had to say.
So when you talk about the economy, of course, it is by far the most important issue for voters. It's also true right now, Mr. President, that voters by a wide margin trust Trump more on the economy. They say that in polls. And part of the reason for that may be the numbers. And you're aware of many of these, of course. The cost of buying a home in the United States is double what it was when you look at your monthly costs from before the pandemic. Real income, when you account for inflation, is actually down since you took office. Economic growth last week, far short of expectations. Consumer confidence, maybe no surprise, is near a 2-year low. With less than 6 months to go to Election Day, are you worried that you're running out of time to turn that around?
We've already turned it around. Look at the Michigan survey. For 65% of American people think they're in good shape economically. They think the nation's not in good shape, but they're personally in good shape. The polling data has been wrong all along. You know, how many, you guys do a poll with CNN, how many folks you have to call to get one response? The idea that we're in a situation where things are so bad, the folks that, I mean, we've created more jobs. We're in a situation where people have access to good paying jobs. And the last I saw, the combination of the inflation, the cost of inflation, all those things, that's really worrisome to people with good reason. That's why I'm working very hard to bring the cost of rentals down, to increase the number of homes that are available. But let me say it this way. When I started this administration, people were saying there's going to be a collapse of the economy. We have the strongest economy in the world. Let me say it again, in the world.
Although GDP last week was far short of expectations.
Oh, it wasn't. Look, GDP is still growing. Look at the response of the markets. Overwhelmingly positive. Overwhelmingly positive. And one of the reasons why people feel good about it not being as strong as it was before is they believe that the Fed's going to respond.
They hope they're going to get a rate cut.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, no president's had the run we've had in terms of creating jobs and bringing down inflation. It was 9% when I came to office. 9%. But look, people have a right to be concerned. Ordinary people, the idea that you bounce a check and you get a $30 fee for bouncing the check, I changed that. You can't charge more than $8 for that. Or your credit card, your late payment, $35. I mean, there's corporate greed going on out there, and it's got to be dealt with.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So corporate greed. All right. Let's deal with a lot of the lies that Joe Biden just said, literally right to your face. So housing has doubled. Aaron Burnett mentioned that housing has doubled since Joe Biden has taken office. Housing has doubled. That is absolutely insane. As far as creating jobs is concerned, he lied about that. He hasn't created jobs. The only jobs, let me say this, the only jobs that a president can't create jobs, but a president can create an atmosphere where business owners create tons of jobs. And the only jobs that are being created by business owners are mostly lower income, perhaps low middle class jobs, laborious type jobs. You're not seeing a lot of skilled jobs, new jobs that people are being hired for. As a matter of fact, you have a lot of these jobs that are laying off, including Tesla right now. I was reading headlines that they're laying off people in their software with their software program or what have you. So this guy just lies. You talk about he said he entered office with 9% inflation. Inflation was either 1.4%, 1.7%. It was virtually non-existent when this guy entered office. He locked down the country, despite the fact that we were getting over COVID because he wanted to be a little dictator. There was an article earlier in the week from CNN.com as well that posted that 75% of food pantries across the country are experiencing as high of demand as they were when the COVID lockdowns began. They're experiencing that now. Generation Z are using their credit cards like no other generation before them, surpassing millennials even with having these record-breaking credit card balances. The economy is in shambles, and you have people like Aaron Burnett. Quite frankly, I have no respect for her. She had the opportunity to call this guy out to say, "Listen, 9% inflation. Come on, Mr. President. It was 1.4. At least do that." She's an economic analyst. She could at least do that. She didn't bother to do that. But the guy just straight lies to us. So let's move on. Now, the Biden administration, again, this guy is destroying capitalism. So now the Biden administration is withholding weapons from Israel. Gabe, let's go ahead and roll that video, por favor.
I know that you have paused, Mr. President, shipments of 2,000-pound U.S. bombs to Israel due to concern that they could be used in any offensive on Rafah. Have those bombs, those powerful 2,000-pound bombs, been used to kill civilians in Gaza?
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. And I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem. We're going to continue to make sure Israel is secure in terms of Iron Dome and their ability to respond to attacks like came out of the Middle East recently. But it's just wrong. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used that have been used.
Artillery shells as well.
Yeah, artillery shells.
So, just to understand what they're doing right now in Rafah, is that not going into Rafah as you define it yet?
They haven't gone into the population centers. What they did is right on the border, and it's causing problems with right now in terms of with Egypt, which I've worked very hard to make sure we have a relationship and help. But I've made it clear to Bibi and the War Cabinet, they're not going to get our support if in fact they go in these population centers.
All right, let's go ahead and cut it there. What you have is a pro-Hamas president. This is absolutely asinine. Israel goes out of their way, even doing knock-knocks on buildings, if you will, dropping dummy bombs to allow people to get out of the way. Also, he failed to mention that Hamas uses human targets. He hasn't mentioned the hostages that we have remaining. in the Gaza area. This is a guy that is placating to his Hamas base, his pro-Hamas base. This is anti-Western. This president is anti-American. He really is. I don't know what else to say. This is absolutely asinine. Again, not to mention that he's doing this unilaterally after the funds have already been appropriated to give Israel the weapons they need. And the last thing I want to bring up is just this real quickly, and that is that there's a bill that we're hoping the GOP will be able to stop to make sure that more apportionment isn't allowed for blue states where they have all of these illegal aliens now that are entering these blue states, because Democrats want more seats in the House. So Republicans want to be able to count just citizens in the census, and that Democrats don't want to. This is an anti-American president. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, don't grow weary doing good.